Big news over the weekend before Sunday's game in Texas was the bleep show Saturday night as Texas A&M nearly hired Kentucky's Mark Stoops. I'm at the airport flying back from Tampa. I saw a notification on my phone that Mark Stoops was going to be hired by the Aggies. I think it was Billy Lucci of TexAgs who put it out there first. I get off the plane and find out that, oh yeah, that wasn't going to happen. And crazily, it seems like the reason it didn't happen was because Ross Bjork, the athletic director of Texas A&M, wanted Mark Stoops. But maybe because Mark Stoops used to be a Jimbo Fisher guy, the Aggies collective pushed back, and I am amazed that Ross Bjork is still hired today. So they move on to Mike Elko. I understand why they hired Mike Elko, since Elko was with Texas A&M not that long ago. 2 years ago, he was the defensive coordinator. He was a part of the team that went 9-1 and won the Orange Bowl in 2020. And he's done pretty well at Duke in the ACC. So by no means do I think this is a bad hire. However, where is it more difficult to win? And this is a serious question. Kentucky in the SEC or Duke in the ACC? And I think all that matters is the second part of both of those questions. The SEC is better than the ACC, even if we're talking about the SEC East. And while Mike Elko and Duke have had an impressive couple of seasons, I just don't think there's this vast discrepancy between Stoops and Elko. And they're bringing Elko back because they are desperate to try and keep the recruiting class that was so damn good with Jimbo Fisher. And you're hoping that you're able to keep some of your recruits for next season as well. And maybe that works. I know it had been rumored that Elijah Robinson was potentially going to be the head coach because he's the interim guy and they want to keep the recruits. And the players, I guess, revolted and the fans revolted. But with all that said, can you really tell me that there's that much of a difference between Elko and Stoops? I don't think you can. I really don't. And the way, the disgust with which, those toxic TexAgs people, the ones that go on the message board, the way that they were looking at Stoops before that plane took off and after that plane took off as if he's some bozo, I don't get it. Like, that would have been just as good of a hire as Mike Elko, in my opinion, with a guy who I think has done a lot more. Winning at Kentucky never happens. He's done it. It's not to say he's done an amazing job, but he's done a pretty damn good one with the expectations that you have. Maybe the SEC East is down a bit. Tennessee really hasn't been good until the last couple of years. Florida has stunk for years. Georgia's obviously the class of that division. It's Vanderbilt, it's Missouri. Like it's definitely weaker than the SEC West. But he's done a good job there. And people were looking down their nose at him. You are an 8-win job. We said it last week. You're an 8-win job. There's nothing wrong with being an 8-win job. But you are right now an 8-win job until some coach comes in and changes that. You've been an 8-win job since the early 90s. There's no shame in that. But the unrealistic way with which you view yourself, you're like a fat person looking in the mirror that sees like a six-pack. Sorry, fatty boom batty, you're fat.
Yeah, Mark Stoops' resume, it's actually really good.
Great resume.
Because, first year 2-10, he inherited a 2-10 team. Then he goes 5-7 for 2 years. And then he rips off 7 straight bowl games at Kentucky, including 2 10-win seasons and an 8-win season. Kentucky has more recent, they have 2 10-win seasons more recently than Texas A&M does. I don't know why I don't know why this was so offensive.
I don't either.
To hire this guy. And like you said, maybe it's because he worked with Jimbo Fisher.
It's got to be
way back in the day. Mike Elko was literally a Jimbo Fisher assistant at Texas A&M 2 years ago.
So true. It feels like they are desperate to keep what they currently have. And look, they clearly have the money to buy out Elko if this doesn't work out. They have the money to do it. So, like, that's not an issue for anyone out there. It might be embarrassing, but, like, the good thing that I think Aggie fans should know right now is, like, hey, like, this is not going to prevent you from moving on. If you moved on from Jimbo Fisher, you're able to move on from anybody.
They could pay Mark Stoops' buyout to not coach for them. Like, they could have done that. Mike Elko, it seems like the only thing he's done better than Mark Stoops in his career is he coached at Texas A&M in 2020. Like, other than that, they don't have similar, or they have similar resumes.
Right.
It's just that Mark Stoops has done it for 10 years at Kentucky, whereas Mike Elko did it for 2 years at Duke. That's the difference.
And listen, I'm SEC all the way. I'm biased for the SEC over the ACC. I watch ACC football regularly. I am the one person that went to Syracuse that likes the football team more than the basketball team. And I've watched ACC football. It is a class far below that of the SEC. To win in the SEC at Kentucky on a level similar to Texas A&M, that takes doing, especially when you're doing it for a long period of time. And to bring in a guy from Duke that has been here not that long ago, is it really going to be better than it was supposed to be with Jimbo Fisher, or better than it would have been with Mark Stoops? I don't think you can say yes to either of those things, and I do not understand why Aggies were so angry on Saturday night to the point that they led a Tennessee-esque revolt to stop it from happening. And
at least Tennessee was in the streets with it, though. At least they did actual graffiti.
They did do actual graffiti. But again, like, Tennessee people are extremely delusional. Here's the thing, though. Tennessee won a national title and had Peyton Manning. So I kind of get it. They had an incredible run, and they won after Peyton Manning left. I would be a little delusional still, too, if I'd been through that. When did the Aggies do that? And why are you guys acting the same way as this fan base that has actually experienced success? And I know I'm talking down to you. Look, you're allowed to feel however you want, but Aggies turned their nose up at far too many things, as if they're 34-year-old single me constantly looking for something better. Sometimes you got to accept who you are and what you're actually capable of. And I don't get why they were criticizing the hire of Mark Stoops that never actually happened. We'll see what happens with Mike Elko. I wish them well.